Genesis is the first note in a symphony that stretches toward a cross, a tomb, and a throne. A saga of redemption that still calls to us today. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. This is the story of beginnings, not just of earth and sky, but of a cosmic drama where love and defiance, promise and betrayal were woven into the fabric of existence. Long before kingdoms rose or empires crumbled, before the first mortal heart beat or the first tear fell, a war was already raging, unseen by human eyes, yet eternal in scope. This conflict shaped the destiny of all creation. It was a battle, not of flesh, but of thrones, of wills, of light against darkness, a cosmic schism that fractured the heavens and sent ripples through the ages. From the radiant courts of glory to the dust of Eden, this war set the stage for every promise, every fall, every redemption. Yet even in the dawn of time, amid the chaos of rebellion and the fracture of divine order, the heart of the eternal was not silent. Promises were forged, unbreakable, radiant, woven into the very essence of creation. Some were kept sealed in the blood of a sacrifice across the ages. Others were shattered, their fragments scattered like ash in the wind. But through it all, the king's purpose endured, a beacon calling the lost back to him. Before Eve stood beneath the forbidden tree, before the serpent's honeyed whisper tainted Eden's peace, another war had already torn the heavens asunder. The serpent was no mere tempter, no mere creature of cunning. He was a divine being, a throne bearer of God, clothed in splendor, his wings adorned with the light of thousands of stars. Ezekiel speaks of him. You were the signet of perfection, full of wisdom and perfection and beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God, until iniquity was found in you. His heart, once a mirror of divine glory, turned inward, consumed by pride. He sought to ascend above the stars, to rival the Most High, declaring, "I will be like the Most High." This was the spark of rebellion, the first fracture in the divine order. Scripture whispers of this ancient schism. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for him in heaven. The dragon was hurled to the earth, his rebellion a wound that bled long before humanity's fall. His angels, a third of the stars of heaven, fell with him, cast into the shadows of the world yet to be formed. The fall of man was not the first fracture. It was the second echo of a cosmic rebellion, a tragedy that set the stage for all that followed. Yet even in this defeat, the king's plan was not undone. The light of his purpose shone still, unquenched, eternal. The rebellion in heaven did not catch the Almighty by surprise. It was woven into the tapestry of his sovereign will. From the ashes of the celestial war, a promise was already forming, a seed, a deliverer, who would one day restore what was broken and reclaim what was lost. The story of Genesis begins with this truth. Even in the face of defiance, the king's love endures, his plan unfolds, and his light pierces the deepest darkness. From the ashes of Eden's fall, when the serpent's victory seemed complete, a whisper stirred in the heart of God. A deliverer would rise. Within the curse itself, amid the pronouncement of toil and death, came the first promise of redemption. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. This was no vague hope, but a divine decree, a seed from the woman, singular and sovereign, destined to crush the serpent's head. Cain rose only to fall in envy's grip. His brother's blood stained the earth. His blood cried out for justice, unanswered in that moment. Yet the line of hope endured, fragile as a thread, yet unbreakable in divine purpose. Through Seth, through Enosh, through generations marked by sin, sorrow, the promise was carried forward. Then people began to call upon the name of the Lord. a faint but persistent cry amid a world descending into darkness. The bloodline of the seed wove its way through exile, through grief, through the shadow of death itself. Each name, each life, was a stone in the foundation of redemption. The promise was not merely a hope, it was a covenant, sealed in the eternal counsel of the Almighty, pointing to a day where the seed would stand victorious, his heel bruised, but his triumph assured. But the world grew dark, its heart corrupted beyond imagining. The flood was not the end of humanity's tale, but a fierce act of preservation, a divine act to safeguard the promise yet to come. Darkness had grown ravenous, its tendrils sinking deep into creation. The sons of God, celestial beings fallen and defiant, descended to the earth, mingling with mortal flesh in a forbidden union. The sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. From this corruption came the Nephilim, giants of unnatural strength, abominations that stain the earth with violence. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The world became a wasteland of cruelty, a mockery of God's good creation. Yet in this darkness, one man found favor, Noah, righteous and uncorrupted, a remnant of God's original design. God commanded an ark, a vessel of salvation amid the coming wrath. For years, Noah labored, his faith a testimony against a mocking world. With water, God cleansed the earth of its wickedness, but within the ark, he preserved the sacred line. That humble vessel carried more than animals. It bore the hope of all future redemption, a covenant sealed against the storm. By faith, Noah, being warned by God concerning events as yet unseen, in reverent fear, constructed an ark for the saving of his household. The flood was a judgment, but also a promise, a sign that the seed would not be extinguished, that God's plan would endure through the deluge, pointing to a day when all creation would be made new. When men built a tower to rival heaven, seeking unity without God, the king's plan did not falter. It deepened in ways unseen. Babel was no mere structure. It was a counterfeit Eden, a monument to human pride echoing the serpent's ancient rebellion. Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves. They sought to ascend to become as gods, but their unity was rooted in defiance, a rejection of the Creator who had given them breath. God descended, his presence a weight that shattered their ambition. Deuteronomy reveals the deeper truth. When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the people according to the number of the sons of God. God disinherited the nations, placing them under the stewardship of lesser celestial beings, the sons of God, spiritual powers tasked with governance. Yet many would fall to corruption. Yet from the wreckage of Babel, he reserved people for himself, a remnant to carry his name. The scattering was not the end. It was the beginning of a plan to reclaim the nations, to weave a tapestry of grace through one chosen line. The king did not abandon the scattered. He was already preparing a family through whom all people would be blessed, a light to pierce the darkness of a fractured world. From one wandering nomad, a family would rise, and through that family, a king would redeem the world. Abraham, called from the shadows of Babel's ruin, left Ur to follow a voice that promised the impossible. Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. Under a desert sky, beneath a canopy of stars, God swore an oath, a land, a seed, a blessing for all nations. Abraham believed, though he was old and childless, his faith was a beacon in a world of doubt. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. Centuries later, Paul unveiled a mystery. The promises were made to Abraham and to his offspring. It does not say, and to offsprings, referring to many, but referring to one, and to your offspring, who is Christ. The seed was not a multitude, but one, the Messiah, the deliverer. A promise kindled in the heart of the wanderer would one day blaze on a Roman cross, its light piercing the darkness to call all nations home. Abraham's faith, even his willingness to offer his son Isaac, foreshadowed the father's sacrifice, the lamb who would bear the sins of the world. The covenant with Abraham was not just for a people, but for all humanity, a bridge from the scattered nations back to the heart of God. The age of Genesis is not merely the story of beginnings. It is the opening chord of the most epic symphony ever, the first notes of redemption's song, echoing across time toward a cross that even cast its shadow over Eden's gates. Every rebellion, whether in the heavens or in the garden, every promise, every preserved remnant pointed to him, the seed, the deliverer, the king. The war in heaven, the fall in the garden, the flood's cleansing, Babel's scattering, Abraham's covenant, all were threads in a divine tapestry, woven by a God who would not abandon his creation. The story of Genesis is the story of a love that pursues, a grace that restores, a light that no darkness can overcome. This narrative challenges us to see our place in the saga. What rebellions do we harbor? What promises do we cling to? The God who preserved Noah, who called Abraham, still calls us to faith, to trust in the seed who triumphed over sin and death. Therefore, as one trespass led to the condemnation for all men, so one act of righteousness leads to justification and life for all men. For as by one man's disobedience the many were made sinners, so by one man's obedience the many will be made righteous. Genesis is our story, a mirror reflecting the eternal plan that leads to Christ. If this hit you deeper than expected, there's more. Check the full playlist to follow the story, from Genesis to Revelation, book by book, breath by breath. Subscribe if you haven't, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. This is a very long road, and we're just getting started.